Welcome to another episode of Listen, Learn, and Love, hosted by Richard Osler. My guest on today's podcast is my friend and everybody's friend, Alex Boye.
Hi.
Welcome, Alex.
Hey, Papa. It's awesome. I'm awesome. I'm honored to be here. Thank you so much for the invite.
We're really glad to have Alex here. They're doing construction in our home, so we're not in our usual place upstairs. I brought Alex down to one of our teenage sons who's away at college bedrooms. So here we are in his bedroom with all of his sports and stuff.
Like a super athlete, man. I don't think I've seen as many medals and pictures and posters and stuff. Wow, it's pretty amazing. Powerful man.
He's a good kid. I think many of our listeners know Alex, and so, but I'd love to just start with a little bit about how you connected with the church in England.
Yeah.
As a 16-year-old, and why you joined our church.
Sure. So I was born in London, England. And when without a father, pretty much I don't really know him. I never knew him. He never was much of a part of him in my life. I think my mom and dad separated when I was about 2 or 3. So anyway, I grew up in England. So I was born in England. When I was about 2, I moved to Nigeria. And I guess my mom and dad are separated. So he called for me to live with him in Nigeria. So I lived in Nigeria. I was there from about 2 till I was probably about 5 or 6. I think he was fed up with me. So he sent me back
to England.
Sent me back to England, back to mom. And so, then my mother reared me. And that's when I was about 6. So when I was about 11 years old, my mom told me she was moving to, well, she wasn't moving. She was going to Nigeria. And she's going to be there for, about 3 weeks. And, I never saw her for 8 years.
Wow.
And that was really tough. And, I used to remember just that, she put me in a boarding school. And that's another story. It's amazing how I even got into that school. It's like one of these, those like Harry Potter stuff. It's like that boarding school, but without the moving parts and the magic and the crazy moving floorboards and stuff. But I was in a boarding school just like that. And it was very, very expensive to get in. And I guess I got your version of a scholarship, I guess you could say, to get there. And that was at the age of, 11 years old. So that was just incredible. So I was going to this boarding school. It was a nightmare. It was just so tough. It was really, really hard, but I had to grow up really, really quick. I remember I used to looking up in the sky and think, I see a plane and think, oh, that's my mom. She's coming back. And I did that every day for years.
All those planes.
Finally I stopped looking and stopped counting. And then all of a sudden I was just like resigned to the fact that it's just me. I'm 11 years old and it's just me. So I just got to make the most of it. And, while I was at the boarding school during the vacation times, I would stay with an uncle. And my uncle was, he was a well-meaning, gentleman. He was, he did his best, but he was always drinking. He was drunk. He had his own issues and he was drunk all the time. In fact, we hardly ever spoke really. We didn't have much of a relationship. The only time he would talk to me is during the weekend, where he'd give me the shopping list, the same shopping list that he's written for 5 years, and that I would have to go and do the rounds, get him alcohol, sweet martini. That was like his favorite drink. And I had to go buy that at the liquor store, and some cigarettes and, stuff like that. And then sometimes, drugs. And then I had to go put a ticket in the gambling hall. There's these places where you gamble in England, just these stores. And then you just put your money down and watch it on the screen. So that's what I did. That's what I did for him every week for years. And then at that time I was working in McDonald's during my vacation time, staying at his place, working at McDonald's. And I remember while I was there one time, I was in McDonald's, there was a gentleman there who always used to, he was the clean guy, the good guy, some people used to make fun of him, but many people didn't, because he was like this 6'5" black dude both ways. You didn't mess with the brother, you know what I mean? But I used to remember, because I was always so mad and angry. I remember I got into like this huge scrap with him, And I remember I got into this huge, well, not with him, but I got into this huge fight one day. Because in McDonald's, we all love fight. We call it scrapping, right? We'd all scrap. Yeah. And we do it all the time. That's like, if I felt good, I'd scrap. If I felt bad, I'd scrap. And, and I got into this scrap and all of a sudden I find myself levitating off the floor. because Aaron had grabbed me by the scruff of my neck, lifted me up, and then he threw me out of McDonald's through the door, and he says, "Get out, don't come back until tomorrow."
Wow.
Everyone started laughing at me. It was embarrassing and everything.
Sure.
So I just didn't want to, I was so mad and angry with him, and but there was nothing I could do about it. The guy's 6'5", right? And so my goal was, I know what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to get my own back on him. I'm just going to ignore him. Yeah, that's what I'll do. And so I used to he talked to me, and I'd never, answer back, never responded. And I remember he started like asking me all these weird, strange questions. I remember one time, like he came up to me and he asked me if I like to play soccer. I'm like, yeah, I like to play soccer. And he'd say to me, well, there's going to be an activity in my church. I wondered if you wanted to come. This 6-foot black dude talks like the Queen, really weird combination, but he was extremely well-spoken and very well-educated. And what was crazy about that is that, the McDonald's we're at, you could say it was like the hood. It wasn't the nicest place. But he was just this like diamond in the rough, where all of us just had the way that we talked. We'd swear, we'd curse, we'd do everything, talk nasty about girls, women, whatever. And he just come in with this polite, incredibly like Downton Abbey accent. And he just stood out in every way. And people would either make fun or try and explain it or just say, there's something about this guy. And so I just kind of discovered that there was something about this guy and I didn't know what it was. I hated him, but I didn't want to hate him. And so he'd ask me all these questions and, I was like, no, I'm not interested in, whatever church you go to and this and that. And so he just kept, every now and then, he just kind of just like goading me with some kind of question. I remember one time he asked me if I like chicken. I'm like, seriously, bro, how are you going to ask me if I like chicken? What did you Google that? What did brother like to eat? You know what I mean? Of course I like chicken. So anyway, I was like, why are you asking? He said, well, there's going to be an activity in our church. We're going to be having wonderful, wonderful games. And then we'll have some food in the cultural hall. Like, what's a cultural hall? Like, place for black people? Like, yeah, I don't know, right? It's like all these words. We're going to a fireside. We'd like to come to a fireside. I'm like, do I have to bring s'mores? Like, I had no idea. So anyway, he just kept asking me all these questions and I just kept saying no. And then one day, it's crazy. He came up to me and it was almost like he had this kind of look of victory on his face, like already beforehand, like talking to me. And I'm just like, what's going on with this guy, And he's like, Alex, might I ask you a question? And I'm like, yeah, what's the question? He's like, well, I was just wondering, do you like American girls? And I'm like, yeah. Why are you asking if I like American girls? You can hook me up, And then all of a sudden, when he saw that I'd finally gained some interest from a question he had, he's like, oh, you know what? Never mind. Forget I asked. And then he just walked off. I'm like, wait, hold on a minute. It's like he knew he found some kind of common interest with me, right? So for weeks, I just kept asking him and bugging him and everything. And finally, I just forgot about it. And then one day, remember I was walking home, it was just like I had a long day, did like a long shift and everything. And I'm walking home really tired and everything. And then I open up the gate and I'm walking up to the doorstep. And what did I see? I'm seeing like 2 sister missionaries smiling at me, just looking at me and big smile on their face and they're waving and everything. I'm like, what the heck is going on here? They come up to me with their American accents and like, hi, we're members of the Church of Jesus Christ. And I'm before they even finish, I'm like, yeah, come in, right? So I let them in and was sitting, on the floor, and they started teaching me the gospel. And one time was crazy. My uncle, he had seen them, and he came up to me after they left. And he's like, what are they doing in my house? And because they just come to visit me, so I don't care. I never want to see them in my house.
Wow.
So that was like the end of that. And then, the missionaries kept contacting me. And I says, I can't. My uncle will kill me, And then like one time I called him, I was just like, so, I think it was more it was not out of listening to them, but it was like there were 2 hot girls, real cute. I was like, I want them to come to my house and keep me company, So I called them and I said, look, my uncle, he's asleep from being drunk at this time and this time. And then he goes out to be drunk between this time and this time. You come then. So they was like, sure, no problem. So they came and they started, carried on teaching me the gospel and stuff. And, to be honest, I wasn't really interested, but I got to tell you something. I got double back. I used to have these really bad nightmares about dying when I was probably like 13, 14, 15. And it would be just these like satanic dreams where I just have these dreams where literally Satan is just, and his hosts are just like tearing me apart. And mentally that started to take a toll. I mean, not just one dream. I'm like, see, it's one thing, sometimes you wake up, I had a nightmare, and it's no big deal. You just brush it off. But when you have the same dream over and over again,
wow,
the same dream, nothing different, over and over again, you start thinking, maybe I need to go see somebody, and you're scared and everything. And then I didn't sleep anymore because I was too scared to sleep. And so I never talked to anyone about it. I think I talked to one person, they just made fun of me, so I just stopped talking about it. And so when they came back to me, and they started talking to me about the gospel, I remember I wasn't, as I said, I wasn't that interested, but I had this question in the back of my mind, but I didn't want to talk about it in case they ridiculed me or made fun of me, And so I just kept it to myself for a long time. And then after a while, there's the sisters that kept coming to my place, and I still wasn't, showing much interest, and nothing was really registering with me. And I started feeling bad, because I was just like, I'm just my goal is when they come next time, I'm gonna tell them not to bother, that, thanks a lot for, being really nice and good friends to me. So, because I felt like they could have spent time with other people who were actually really interested. So that was my goal. So they came in one time and they'd have me read books and all that type of stuff. And I'm trying to deliberately show that I'm not interested, and they could tell, and they're asking me what's wrong. And then I just told them, I said, I don't want to listen to anymore, and stuff like that. And so, they got it, and they were kind and gracious, and they came and they said, okay, no problem. And, one of them got up and packed all her stuff and everything. And she came and shook my hand and said, thank you. And she's heading out the front door, Then the other sister, she comes up and she does the same thing. She shakes my hand and, she says, thank you very much. And she heads out the door too. But the other sister, that was Sister Thompson, she's just standing there with her back faced towards me and her head bowed down. And I'm like, what is this woman doing? And I'm like, and it felt like for the longest time, And so I was just like, hello, Sister Thompson, hello. And she just kept her head down like that. Then finally she lifts up her head and she turns back around and she's heading towards me. And she's got like tears coming down her face. Her mascaras look like spider's webs. And I'm like, like, I'm really sorry. I hope I didn't say anything bad, and, I hope I didn't offend you. Please forgive me and stuff like that. Cause I felt I was a decent chap, And then so she said to me, no, you don't understand. She said, these are tears of joy. And I'm like, what?
Wow.
She says, look, you're the first person that has let me in. I've been here for, months. My companion, I don't even know her, points to her. And he says, I've been scared sometimes. I've never left like my state before. I've never left the country before. I come from thousand miles away from America. And I remember, she's saying, so I just want to just thank you for giving me a chance. Let me in, give me a chance to practice my words and practice my presentations on you. And I'm like, oh, okay, no problem. You're welcome, type thing. And then she did something that I look back now and I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's like, that was the weapon. She pulled out the weapon.
The weapon.
She bore
Let's
a testimony.
hear it, Alex.
I look back, she bore a testimony. And she just simply said, and I don't remember exact words, but she just simply said something in the fact of, I just want you to know that the reason why I'm here is because of Jesus Christ. I came here that through many burdens that I have, through burdens that other people have, and in a world that's just so cold and so hard and so callous sometimes, I want to be that person that bring peace in people's homes. And thank you for allowing me to do that. And then she said, did you feel peace while I came? And I said, yeah. And she said, well, then I've done my job. And then she heads out. And I'm just like standing there. And all of a sudden, I feel that spirit. And it probably wasn't in the way the sisters expected it. They wanted me to feel it while they were there, while I was with them. I ran out. They'd already got out. I ran out.
So they left and you're
yeah,
feeling
they'd
the
already
spirit.
left. And I'm just like, what the heck is going on here? And it's just this amazing feeling. And I remember just like going out. I ran out and they were getting on the bus, and the bus was going. And I ran after the bus and I was like, come back. And it's one of those where you can get on and off. So it wasn't a door. So one of the sisters just stepped out. They both stepped off. And I'm just like standing there in front of them, And I remember just like, can you come back? And they're both looking at each other with this puzzled face,
stunned.
you know. And I'm like, they're like, yeah, sure. So they come back to their house. We're all silent. I have them sit down. As we're sitting down, I felt like that King Lamoni dude, who's the one that was silent, had nothing to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I felt like. I just didn't know what to say. I had nothing. I was just like, there's so much I wanted to say that I had nothing to say. You know, I'm just a little, you know, squirty, you know, 16-year-old dude. Didn't know anything from anything. And so finally, you know, I started asking him, I said, you know what you said, like about struggles and bringing people, you know, and she said something else as well. Like, that's right. She said that we will all live again after we die because of Jesus and his atonement. And that's another thing that hit me, because she was talking about death.
Yeah.
And in the dream, the thing is, these, you know, I don't know, these images were saying to me, you die, and then you're done. You die, you're done. You're useless. You are the worthless. You die and you're done. You might as well just die. And so I was asking him, and I said, that whole thing you talk about dying, is that real? He said, what do you mean? He said, like, that we'll live again after we die. He says, oh yeah, absolutely. Like it was just like no big deal. Oh yeah. And I said, well, can you prove that to me? Can you show that me in the scriptures? Where does it say that? Show me in the Bible. And show me another one. She showed me another one. And then I remember, and then it's like, show me another one. She showed me some from the Book of Mormon. And I remember saying, do you really believe? It was like one of those things where I was begging them. I was like, do you really believe this? You like, this has to be true. Because if it's true, this will change my life. If it's not, then you guys are just teasing me. You guys are just misleading me. And so she said, oh, it's true. And she said, one of the sisters said, and let me tell you why it's true. Not only why it's true, but why you need to know. And then she just went on and just started talking about sacrifice and all the things that she had sacrificed to come here. She talked about sacrifice, my friends, my mom, my dad, my father, my beautiful home, a place where my mom just totally just made this place such a beautiful place. And talks about her car that she left behind that's all beat up and rusty and everything. She gave it this funky name. Talks about her little Macca poodle. You know what I mean? All the things she left behind that she loves. And every now and then she's in tears, but she keeps going. And she said, but all of these things, Alex, that I have left behind, if they all disappear today, there would be nothing that compares to the love and the power that Jesus Christ has afforded me and given me. And I'm just thinking, are you kidding me with these two women? Like, who talks like that? These two 21-year-old girls. I'm like, I know 21-year-old girls from my area, and I'm not going to tell you what they talk about.
Yeah.
Like, I remember thinking, if I knew half of what these girls knew, I'd be dangerous. I'd be like, MC Hammer, can't touch it. You know what I mean? Like, you can't, I would be dangerous. And I just remember begging them. I'm like, you are not leaving until you tell me everything. I want to know everything. Not realizing that, you know, they won't leave until I get baptized, right? But I was just going nuts, like in a good way. It's like I found this excitement for the first time. I remember watching Matrix, which is weird because it was like R-rated here, but in England it's not, which is weird. But anyway, I remember watching Matrix and that whole blue pill and the red pill. I swear, I felt like these two girls were Neo.
Wow.
And they were giving me a experience of a lifetime from which I would never come back from. That's the only way to say it.
And you haven't.
So yeah, 3 weeks later I was baptized.
3 weeks later.
Church. 3 weeks later, I had no questions, no nothing. They kept saying, do you have any questions? I'm like, nope, next. Okay, this is the next discussion. You have a question? No, next. I'm like, let's go. I knew that's what I wanted.
You remind me of some people I meet, Alex, who, back to my mission in Northern England, Manchester, England.
Yeah, right.
Sometimes you meet someone that, and I'm sure in your own mission you saw this, just people that felt the Spirit and were converted and then just wanted to be taught.
Yeah.
Not because, and it just was like, they just knew that what you were going to teach them was the gospel of Jesus Christ. Yeah.
They knew it was bringing them closer. Like every conversation, I couldn't wait till they come back because I knew everything they had to say was taking me a step closer to Christ.
Talk about your decision to serve a mission.
I served a little late by comparison to most missionaries because I got into the music industry And but I was
We're
just
really glad you got in the music
well.
industry. I think we could all
Well,
just be really happy about that, Alex.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. But the way that I got into it was probably not the way the Lord wanted. But I mean, I was saving up to go on my mission because I had no money. I didn't have sponsors. I didn't really know anyone, but I knew I had to go on a mission after what the sister missionaries did to me. I wanted to do that in return. And so I think I'd been told at the time, look, you have to come up with this amount of money and then, we'll match it type thing. So I was working everywhere, but mainly I was singing and I was dancing, but I was performing at nightclubs. I think every nightclub in England I'd performed at.
That's
I
cool.
had 2 rappers and I was the vocalist. There was 3 of us. We were in a group called A Cut Above. We had these big afros that looked like boxes and they had like slits on them, like Will Smith back in Fresh Prince. We all had our hair like that. We had our baggy MC Hammer pants and we'd go and perform every nightclub thinking we were the bee's freaking knees. Actually, we were, but and we had so much fun. And that's where I raised money to go on my mission. The last day of my mission, the last performance I had, it was in a nightclub called Moonlighting. And it was it was right by, I can't remember the place now, but I just remember that's where it was right downtown where they had Les Mis had played before for like 40 years straight.
Mm-hmm.
And it was right behind there. And it was this seedy nightclub. And we performed there. And while I was there, this was our last one. My plan was to say goodbyes to everyone. And after we finished performing, my friends and the singer, the 2 rappers were talking to other people and they were whispering and looking at me and other people were talking and looking at me in the group. I'm like, guys, what's going on? You all like, every time I walked into the room, all silent. I'm like, what's going on? So all of a sudden there's like this crowd around me of people and they're like, Alex, we got to tell you something. I'm like, what? He says, when we tell you what's going on, you're not going to want to do this missionary thing. I'm like, well, what's going on? He says, well, you see those guys at the table there, they've been watching you throughout our whole performance. He says, that's MC Hammer's manager.
Wow. And
they came early. I had to sell my ticket because my mission call was on the freaking same day as the MC Hammer concert.
Wow.
And that was going to be my highlight. I loved MC Hammer back in the day. This is when height of his career. It's in 91 or whatever. So anyway, they're like telling me this and all the stuff going on that like they want us to go on tour with MC Hammer and then even possibly go to America and all that kind of stuff. So we're going nuts. I'm like, are you serious? Shut up. Don't lie. Shut up. Don't lie. That's a clean version, right?
Dream come true.
Yeah. And so they're like, no, this is true, man. You weren't going to talk to me yourself? So I went to talk to him. I was jumping up and down, just going nuts. I was like, yes, oh my gosh, we're going to get out the hood. I can help my family, help my mom. Then all of a sudden, like, I came to this realization, and everything started to slow down. It's like the whole room just like went in slow motion, And then I just remembered like my mission call. Because I'd already got my call. I remember reading it's so weird. When I read my mission call, I read it in the voice as if Elder Hinckley, President Hinckley was saying it. It was the weirdest thing.
That's cool.
And so anyway, that voice just came back. And the whole sentence, everything that you are called to go, to serve, to leave behind all your worldly cares and everything and serve. And I was just like, guys, I can't do it. They're like, what? I've already made a commitment.
Wow.
I told you this. That I was going to go for 2 years. So we know, but we didn't think that you actually could go for it after this happens.
Wow.
And I was like, I got to do it. Now you got to realize now I'm taking away their livelihood.
Yeah, you've got
these guys are from the worst places
It's really
in London.
complicated.
Yeah, they never spoke to me for years.
Wow.
Like one of them, this is like we're talking like 20,
wow, 30
odd years now. Never spoken to me. So I lost a friend, but it was really, really hard, really, really hard. But I remember when I got back home from my mission, I talked to the other guy. And because I told him, I said, look, the music we want to do, in America it works, but in England, they're not ready for it. And it's so funny. It wasn't until I came back and my friend, one of the guys in the band said, I'm so glad. He says, because it would have come and gone because they gave it to some other person and it just all fell apart and everything, the deal and all that kind of stuff. But I remember them saying, now finally after 2 years, the music, MC Hammer's music and the style of music, it was called New Jack Swing at the time. Now it's getting big in England. And I'm like, okay, yep, let's move forward. Let's do it.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And my mission presence, so here's how it started with the music thing. My mission, because when I got back home, I was just like, I don't know what I'm going to do. But, or that my thoughts of when I go home, I don't know what I'm going to do with music. But I remember, because I'm like, I've missed everything. I've missed the boat. But I remember my mission president, Elder Philip C. Pugsley. He lives in Utah. And I remember he said to me, and I don't even know if he remembers this, but the last day of my mission, I remember him coming up to me and, you know, the last mission interview, and he was just like, Alex, or Elder Boye, you know, you're going to go home, you know, go get married, go get your education, you know, do all this stuff. And then, you know, it was all good. And then I remember him just like kind of pausing, hesitating. He says, you know, I can't remember how he said it, but it was just like, I would like to invite you to consider pursuing music as a profession.
Wow. That's very unusual advice from
right,
mission president.
Right? So I'm just like, that's what started it for me. And every time I doubt myself, every time I've struggled with the music and just had bad experiences or got ripped off and thinking, you know, and everyone telling me, well, what's your real job? Or why don't you quit it and try this instead? It's so much easier. Why does it have to be so difficult for you? And stuff like that. I always remember that that's what's kept me going. And I'm glad he said that, because I wouldn't be doing it if I hadn't heard that from him. Because I knew it came from the Lord.
It did come from the Lord. And look at the lives you're blessing.
Thank you.
Talk about what, you know, you've had, I just kind of spent this morning kind of going through your history and your musical accomplishments. Okay. It's a wonderful, share with our listeners the one or two things that you're the most pleased about, proud about, whatever word that as you look back on your career.
Yeah.
And your career still has many chapters to be written because you're doing wonderful things. Mm-hmm. What would be some of the things that you're the one or two things you're the most proud about?
I mean, there's two different ones. There's the cool factor ones, like, you know, getting to perform at Carnegie Hall 8 times now.
Wow.
Well, it will be, it'll be 8. I performed just Christmas, just gone. But they asked me to come back. So December 5th, 2019, I'm back doing a concert there again.
That's cool.
So I'm just like, I'm pinching myself. The other one, performing at the Royal Albert Hall.
Wow.
In London, England. That's like the place where only like the only place the Queen will go. And
Can you imagine as a 16-year-old kid working at McDonald's that you would perform at Royal Albert Hall?
I mean, no. Listen, well, let me tell you something else, Pops.
I mean, that's something you knew about as a 16-year-old kid.
Well, here's another thing. This was what's crazy about that. When I joined the church, after a week of becoming a member, and that's why I was still staying with my uncle. And when he asked me to go and get him the liquor and the drugs and all that kind of stuff, you know, and I looked at this paper and I was just like, I can't do this anymore. Everything on this goes against the word of wisdom. Everything, including the drugs, right? So I came home one day empty-handed. He'd sent me out, came home empty-handed, had this realization as I'm standing outside the liquor store. So I come back empty-handed and he looks at me and he's like, where's the stuff I asked you to get? I said, I can't do this anymore. And I'm scared. It's like David and Goliath. I'm looking up at this dude, you know what I mean? He's very violent, you know, and I said, I can't do this anymore. He says, why? I says, because I'm and I was so scared. I was like, because I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And we don't do those things. He just looked at me. I thought he was going to just slam me to the ground, you know. And he didn't. He just turned around, went upstairs.
Wow.
And then there was some silence. He comes back downstairs with my suitcase. He'd filled it up with clothes. And then he opens up the door and throws my case outside. He says, get out. He says, and don't come back. And I remember saying, "What? I'm 16 years old. Where am I going to go?" And so I walked out and I never came back that day.
Wow. And
I remember walking the streets of London. This is in October. It's freezing. I'm doing all this fashion conscious, wearing ripped jeans, right? And all that stupidness, right? And I'm freezing. And I'm crying my eyes out. And so I used to go stay at my friends' places until I felt like I outstayed my welcome. Then I'd go stay with another friend. Then I'll go stay at another friend. I'm thinking I got to go back to school. So I got 3 months or 2 months to be able to, then I'll be back at boarding school.
Yeah.
So during that time, after I felt like I outstayed my welcome everywhere and I ran out of places to go, I started sleeping on the streets. And I remember one time I'd go to the nightclubs I'd go to all the nightclubs, and this is how I ended up being like a really good dancer. Because that's where I would go, because I figured that's the only place that I could go where there is where it opens the latest.
Mm-hmm.
So at least it keeps me out of the cold. Some of them 4 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, they would close. So I'd go there. Then afterwards, during closing time, I'd hide under the bar, hide under the the VIP section or whatever, so I could stay in there. Most of the time I got caught and they kicked me out. Then I have to find a place to sleep on the streets. I remember one time I was sleeping in this white van, and I was just like cursing myself, cursing God. I was just like, why? Are you kidding me? My life was amazing before you came into my life. Everything now was worse now that I joined the church. I thought it was supposed to be better. You know what I mean? And I started thinking, I wonder what our Savior, would be thinking, like that he could have had that conversation, but he didn't. Or he's like, my life's worse now that I'm the son of God. No, my life's worse now that I realize that I'm a son of God. It's not better, right? I always had these images of that, but obviously it's nothing close to that. But I just remember when I was praying in the van, and I was moaning and complaining and asking the Lord, like, why? And then I just got this voice that I couldn't feel. It was just this voice that's like, Alex, are you finished complaining yet?
Are you finished complaining yet?
And I'm like, in the most loving way. I just feel like I'm having this mental conversation with the Spirit. And I'm like, yeah. He says, well, will you listen to me now? I'm like, yeah. This is while I'm in the van. I got my scriptures with me. So take up your scriptures. And then all of a sudden, many people will tell me this. I remember people used to tell me this, and I never believed it. Where they'd open up the scripture to any page and the answer would be there. This happened to me for a whole hour. I'd close it, open it up again. Answers there. Close it, open it up again. And there's one part where I was led to, Doctrine and Covenants, 121st section, Doctrine and Covenants, or 122nd section. I can't remember which one, but it's just part where Joseph Smith was in jail, which is called Liberty Jail, which is kind of an oxymoron. But anyway, he's in jail and he is crying out to the Lord and literally saying, why? All our people out there are getting raped, pillaged, beat up. All the mobs are just doing all kinds of just things that you could not imagine, that is not written in the manuals. And he says, and yet I have no power and I'm here. And I remember the Lord, said to him, started talking about if, wish I had my scriptures here, but it was like, if thou art called to do this, if the billowing surges gather against thee and, the heavens gather against thee and open up the gate of hell wide open and, all this. It's like, if all these terrible things happen to you was basically it. He says, know thou, my son, that these things shall be for thy good. And I used to be just like, good? That's not freaking good. When you get Big Mac and it's just real nice and everything, just real hot, it's warm. That's good. You bite into that or some I don't know, I can tell you the things are good. That's not good. Like the way that we see, the things we see as good and the things Heavenly Father sees being good, two different things. And it's like the reason why we feel the Holy Ghost is to help us get on his wavelength as to how he thinks. That's what I truly believe, So every time I feel the Spirit, all the problems and all the crap that I'm going through, it just flies out the window. Flies out. Don't matter how bad it is. As soon as I feel the presence of the Holy Ghost, it's done. Forget about whatever it is trying to pull me down. You can't pull me down, man.
I'd love to go back and just see a picture of you in these nightclubs.
Oh, I got some.
At age 16 in this white van, and then going back and playing in Prince Royal Albert Hall.
Yeah,
and the contrast of that.
Oh gosh, it was
Alex,
insane.
And for a lot of our listeners, your story brings hope. That's one of the reasons I love you sharing your story, is because it's a pretty tough story, with a lot of days with no hope or very little hope. And that's one of the things that your story, I think, just brings so much hope for people that are listening.
I appreciate it, because I know many of us, man, many of our brothers out there and our sisters out there are struggling. And, what's funny? My patriarchal blessing, it says men's hearts will fail them for fear in the last days. And I never knew what that meant. And it's not until recently, and then after I'd been involved in that Bend Not Break song and just writing, a song about suicide prevention, then it hit me. And I've been trying to find the answer for 20 years, what that meant. Hearts that will fail them for fear. It's talking about it's talking about fear, anxiety. It's talking about depression. It's talking about suicidal thoughts and suicidal actions. That's what it was talking about. It's like the Lord knew in advance, knows in advance all these things. So he's brought people around, and he's like, in my petrol, listen, it says, you're going to be a part of helping to bring people back. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that's like, I didn't even know how to start that. So instead I just forgot about it and got to work. And then I just realized it's starting to happen.
Help our listeners understand the backstory behind Bend Not Break and producing that video last year. I think with Harriman High School and the suicides that were going on there. So
this was, again, another thing that just came to me. It was a gift. I was sitting in Burbank, California in a recording studio. It's the same one where they did all the Muppets and everything back in the day. It's a Jim Henson studio. It's turned into a recording studio now. And they are some of the biggest artists that work in there. And I remember I had a chance to work with Randy Jackson from American Idol. And he just took me in. And we were working on an album together. Sometimes he'd be in the studio with me 10 hours. This is the busiest man on the planet. Every song. We did probably about 12, 13, 14 songs. Incredible. And so the last song that we did, my voice was gone. I was so tired. It was late at night now. So tired. My plan was to go back to the hotel, and then I was going to get on a plane, come back to Utah. So after this, I just thought, let me just go to the restroom. So I'm sitting on the crapper. That's what we call it in England, the crapper.
I remember that.
Right? So we're sitting on from Manchester. You were sitting on the crapper. Well, just me. And then I just had this real strong impression. It's like the Lord was like, you have one more song to do. And I'm like, what hell? But it was the weirdest thing. It was just as clear as day. It wasn't a voice. It was just like, in my heart, it's like, you have one more song to do. You're not done. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like these guys are all gone. It's late at night and everything. My voice is gone. And I run back in. I said, guys, we got to do one more song. The engineer's there, the piano player, the guys, the guitarist. I
love
Randy
the way you just
left.
instantly acted on your prompt.
Oh man,
you could have rationalized that, but keep telling the story, Alex.
It was so powerful, and I was just like, oh my gosh! And so I said, guys, we need to do one more song. They're all rolling their eyes and everything, working with the co-songwriter that I'm working with, and they've all called Ubers and everything. I'm like, please, they cancel their Uber. They're like, okay, what do we need to do? And I said, this song needs to be about suicide. They're like, what? Because I'm Mr. Lemonade guy, hey, happy-go-lucky,
pretty
right?
Upbeat.
I've never done anything like this. And so they're like looking at me, they're like, okay, all right. He says, well, what aspect? What do you want to? I said, it's about suicide prevention. And then, let's talk more about this. And I said, look, I want you to imagine that you are walking across the Golden Gate Bridge. As you walk across the Golden Gate Bridge, it's just you. And then you see this image and this figure. As you get closer, you see there's someone about to jump. You're the only one that can save them. What would you say?
Great question.
And they all looked at me. And I was asking myself that. I felt like it was the Lord was like, made me ask that question to the whole group, the songwriting group. And we wrote this song in an hour. When it was finished, we put it on the shelf. We didn't think anything about it. And then my manager, God bless him, love this man, he had taken my song and he'd sent it to all the suicide prevention organizations all across America.
Wow.
He said to all the ones that he sent it to, every single one of them called him back.
Wow.
And he said, I'm going to go for the biggest one. So it's the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. They're set in New York, right on Wall Street. So they flew me out. I'm sitting down on a table. I'm explaining them, telling them what's going on with the song. And then they said, Alex, we love this song. There are people in tears in this organization here in the office listening to this. And it's this high rise, looking over the water, and you see the bridge, you see Statue of Liberty. Right? I mean, it was powerful. And I'm sitting there and I just like, okay. They're like, do you have a music video for this? I says, no. He says, can you do one? I was like, oh yeah, because that's what I love to do, right? He said, well, I said, when do you need it? They're like, 2 weeks. I'm like, so my mind, my head was like, no, but my mouth said, oh yeah, no problem. I can totally take care of that, right? So I go off and I started working on this, and I'm on the plane and I'm just thinking, what am I going to do? How am I going to start? This is crazy. And then I got home to my wife, Julie, and I said, Jules, this is crazy. Like, usually I always come out with great ideas. My mind is just totally blank. I don't know what to do. I got 2 weeks to present this thing to this big, huge flipping organization. who want to use my song as their theme song for this September for the suicide month. And I'm like, holy crap. And then she said, did you hear about Harriman?
Wow.
I'm like, what? No. It's like, you didn't? She said, I sent you a link one time, you know. I was like, oh, I guess I didn't see it. And she said, you know, they had like 7 people lost their lives and to suicide, and 7 teens that went to the same school, Harriman High School. I was like, I didn't know about this. And she said, I went back and checked the link. I was like in tears. I was reading up on the stories, the news stories, all the news pieces they did on them and everything. And so I was just like, that's where I got to shoot it. I got to do this music video in Harriman. So I called up people and nobody responded. And finally I was just like, I don't know what to do here. Who am I going to talk to? So I put a message on my Facebook and I said,
saw that.
Dear Harriman.
I just love the way you use social media, Alex.
Right? You know, and I was just like, this is, I have a music video that I want to do, and it's about sensitive subject. And I knew that they would know if I said that. Oh my gosh, Pops, I got probably like 500 plus messages back within short of an hour. Wow. And the first one was a guy called Daryl Robinson, and he was head of the Jordan High School district. And he said, Alex, you come now. Wow. Whatever you need, we will help you supply it.
You were answering prayers in that community, Alex.
That's so crazy. And that's literally it. And we went, I remember the day that we did the music video, like, it was like the finale of the video was like 1,200 people turned up. And this was the hardest thing because I didn't want, they were like, do you want us to call the people, you know, who had lost it? I said, no. Because I don't want it to be like, oh, it's me, Mr. Alex Boye, ulterior motive, you know, use you to be famous type thing, you know? So I just said, no, don't call them. I think 2 or 3 of them came anyway.
Wow.
You know, I said, just whoever comes, that's great, but I don't want to invite them. And then some, it might be too soon. I don't know, you know?
Yeah, you're very sensitive.
So 3 of them came, and one of them is in the music video, has a pivotal part where she hugs the girl in the lake. Her name's Heidi Swap, and she had lost one of her child. So she's hugging this girl to say, I've been there. Stay.
Wow.
You know, don't go. But what was crazy was the response after the video was released. And then like it turned into this sounding board of almost like therapy of people putting their responses saying, oh, this happened to me. I've been suicidal. I've never even told anyone. I'm so moved by this. I sent it to my friend. I sent it to so-and-so. I had a guy that works in the church office. I'm just going to say it, and he don't mind me saying it. I'm just not going to say his name. Works in the church offices. He's like, people love him, well-respected, this, whole, that. And he says, I'm not afraid to tell you. And he says, I had thoughts of suicide. In fact, I was about to do it.
Wow.
And he told him about experience that, you know, that he was, lost his job again. And he just felt like a terrible father, felt like he couldn't fulfill his obligations as a father, felt like he was failing and everything. And then he was driving, his voice was just like, just keep going off that cliff. Just go. And that's where he was going, headed that direction. All of a sudden, he said the radio turned on. And on the radio was a commercial for anti-suicide prevention. And it was the number that came up. He stopped, came to, called the number, enough for them to be able to convince him not to do it.
Wow. And
to go home to his beautiful family. There was another girl who said that she had, after watching the video, basically she told me that she has a twin in Scotland. She lives in the US. Her twin was just like, I'm taking my life cold. Says, I'm done. You know, my life is terrible and this and that, just all the things that's gone on. I wasn't expecting it. This is not how I expect my life to go. I live in hell. And then she's basically her sister now on the other side. Like, what would you say? Like, you know, it's one thing to say, okay, I'm coming over, right? She lives like, you know, the other side of the world. And so she's like, you don't come. I'll be gone by the time you come anyway, type thing. And then so now she's praying and thinking, what can she say? And she's trying everything. She's quoting scriptures. She's quoting prophets. She's quoting Gandhi, like whatever, you know what I mean? Anything, right? Instagram quotes, you know? And then finally she's just like, okay, do what you need to do. But I'll just ask, before you do this, just do one thing for me. Just go on YouTube, type in Alex Boye, bend, not break. We'll watch it together.
Watch it together.
She watched it on that side. She watched it on the other side. And they're both on the phone. Now her sister's crying her eyes out and she's thinking, oh my gosh, Alex, you just totally ruined this moment. This is worse now, you know? And then she said, no, you don't understand. She says, this is the first time after watching the video, the first time I've ever felt the Spirit in 16 years. And then remember what I told you about the hug?
Yeah.
That was it.
Wow.
That was it. That changed everything for her. Her life never got like much better, but she knew that that was one thing that she was never, ever going to do because she had that hug.
How did you come up with the name Bend, Not Break?
I had, it's something that I always write stuff on my phone on my notebooks of songs and ideas of quotes I hear and stuff like that. And Bend Not Break was something that had always been there for a long time. And now I can't really remember where it was from. But I remember since then, there's a guy that wrote a book called Bend Not Break. I think it's like an Asian guy or a girl. But the whole idea with Bend Not Break is when you look at like those bamboo, the palm trees, you see them flowing in the wind, you know what I mean? Beautiful sand and seeing them, they're floating in the wind. And what you notice is that no matter how strong the wind is, they never break. They always just bend, but they never ever break. But the scientific part of that is that if you go deep down, the roots are so far down into the earth that's where their strength comes from. So I was thinking, if we build roots, if we can build roots of faith, roots of belief, roots of positivity, roots of belief in ourselves, and we dig it so far deep down, constantly on a daily basis, then eventually when the storm comes, bless you. Eventually when the storm comes, because it will come, right? That you will just bend, but you'll never break.
I love, and I'm coughing a little bit.
God bless you.
I just love that, Alex, because I think we need permission to bend.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we've thought we need to be so perfect we can't bend.
Yes.
But I think bend you've painted as a strength.
Yeah.
And it's a sign of our core. It's a sign that we need to bend at times.
Yeah. Yeah. It's okay to bend. It's okay to be imperfect. It's okay to mess up again. It's okay to, you know what I mean? Be that person or not be that person that you've dreamt about yet. It's okay, you know what I mean? To just, sit in the middle of, the chapel on your own and swear and cuss the heck out of your life and everything. That stuff is okay. Like sometimes we put so much on ourselves. There's stuff that we think that we cannot do. There's stuff that all of a sudden every family walks in, to church and we'll put on our best Sunday. The kids have got their tassels and everything in the right place and all that kind of stuff. Nothing wrong with that. But what we're trying to say is that that's the way we are on the inside. And that is not true. There is no one as perfect as that. There is no perfect family. I don't care who you are. I don't care how you look on the outside. What we want to say is like, you have no idea. You have no idea how the perfection that you're showing is ruining other people. The perfection that you're trying to show is ruining other people, making other people feel that. Look, again, there's nothing wrong with addressing it. It's the intent behind it, right?
Right.
You know what I mean? And you feel the intent. You know what I mean? Someone could dress up and do it and they just want to look good and just do it. But then otherwise, and I'm not saying everyone's like that, but what I'm saying is that it doesn't matter how we look on the outside. You know what I mean? It never ever reflects the inside. And the inside is the most important part. And so we look at other people and just think, oh, their insides are perfect. They have no struggles. They have no, you know what I mean? I'm working on a project right now that's called Check on Your Friends, Even the Strong Ones. And
what a great title.
And that is one thing, like the other thing I didn't say, when I did that, when I went back to the studio and I told the guys in the studio that I wanted to do this song, one of the engineers burst out crying. He lost it. And I'm like, we're all looking at each other. I'm like, oh, bro, you okay? He's like, this is crazy. I'm like, because you're standing here in front of me. Today is the 1 year anniversary of my best friend taking his life.
Wow.
And he's losing it. He's like, I know I'm supposed to be here working on this with you. He didn't consider himself much of a religious guy or anything, but he just said, I know God wanted me to be here to be a part of this. And I'm like, holy cow.
What?
And so he said that he was the strongest. He was one of the strong guys. He was the one that everyone used to go to when they had their problems. He was the one that never broke, never even bended.
Never bended, but then he broke.
And then he broke. And so it's like, he said, so that's why I'm saying, it's like, sometimes we think we have to be perfect. We act way too perfect because we think that that's how we're supposed to. That's going to mess us up. That will break us before we even bend. So now I'll stand in front of a person. It's like, listen, man, if something bad comes out of my mouth, so be it. I'm still working on it, just like J. Golden Kimball. As long as you keep repenting, as they say, right? So I
just
keep
love
falling
that,
every time.
Alex, because you're real and vulnerable and authentic, and then people know they can trust you. They can talk to you. All these messages you get are people because they know you can trust you.
Yeah.
And they know you're real and authentic, and you're talking about complicated stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think that's a type that us as parents, I know you're a father of 6 kids, you and your wife, Julie, and my wife and I have 6 kids, but as priesthood leaders in his families, I love the example you're setting. I want to talk about LGBTQ because I know you were part of the Love Loud concert in Utah County in 2017, I believe.
Yeah.
And I've just picked up, you kind of have this ministry where you help everybody, but you've also said some kind things and helpful things for LGBTQ. And a lot of my listeners are LGBTQ or parents trying to help their kids. Mm-hmm. What thoughts would you have for them?
Oh my gosh. When I was asked to do it, probably for about a minute, I had this hesitation.
Yeah.
And then after that, I was just like, who gives a crap what everyone is going to say? Who gives a crap when I posted it? People were like, oh, you've lost my respect. These are members of the church.
Wow.
Right? You've lost my respect. I'm not buying your songs again, and this and that and that and this. And I just thought to myself.
And that's the first thing you've done that was LGBTQ related, was the Love Loud in Utah County.
That's when I said to myself, when I got those messages, that's when I knew I was doing the right thing.
You are strong.
And I wish I could say I'm strong, but it's crazy because I, for many years, been approached by, people on the street, LGBTQ people on the street, and they're like, your music has just been such a blessing for me. And I was like, I almost didn't believe it. You know what I mean? I almost didn't believe it. And I was like, thanks, but okay. You know what I mean? It just didn't compute with me because I thought, and this is my ignorance, right? I always thought, well, if you're LGBTQ, then you will only listen to music that other people, people who are LGBTQ or gay or whatever, that they would, produce. I'm saying, that's the dumbest thing in the world. What's wrong with me? You know what I mean? And then I started feeling like, this is so awesome. And you know what's funny? When I was in a boy band back in England, right? This is a whole nother story. I'll just keep it short, but I used to be in a boy band. This is after my mission, right? When my mission president said, you should get into music. So I joined a boy band.
Was that the group Awesome?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I don't know if that was what he meant, but we performed at all the gay nightclubs in England.
Good for you.
We used to go. It's so funny because I remember at first we used to get real mad. Like we'd check out our itinerary and we'd say, where are we performing? And then we're like, we'd have all these gigs, and then we're like, oh gosh, we're going to go perform at a gay bar. So we got to perform at that nightclub with the gay bar. And the only reason why we're upset is because we knew there weren't going to be chicks there that were into us. But other than that, I tell you what, I'm not going to lie. I don't care. My bishop's probably listening, but I had some of the funnest times there. Because they were just like, the guys and the gals there was just like, so, there was no judgment. They were just so, they're just living their thing, man, doing their thing, just being them. Just like I'm being me. And it was just like, there was never an issue with that. It was just about me entertaining and bringing a smile. I don't care who you are.
That's cool.
I just want to bring a smile to your face because that's my calling. And the Lord never said to me, Alex, I want you to bring a smile on the faces of the Mormons out there, but not the gays. Not the LGBTQ, not the rest of the world. He didn't say that. He says, go out and put smiles on people's faces. Now, to me, the last time I checked, people covered LGBTQ. It covered Mormons. It covered, you know what I mean? The judgmental ones, and it covered the non-judgmental ones, and it covered the awesome ones. Like all 3 or all 4 or 5. So that was never a problem for me. So when I agreed to do Love Loud, and then I posted something and people were just like, I'm not following you anymore. I'm like, that's okay. That really is okay. And I remember they asked me to write a monologue. So you're talking, this is crazy. You're talking like 20,000 people, okay? And the ballpark in Orem, okay? That was no accident. It was a reason why it was done there. But I remember getting up on stage. And I looked at, and I'd written this monologue, and I'd worked on it with Barbara Barbara Young, Steve Young's wife. She's amazing. She's a very, very huge supporter of the LGBTQ.
She's great.
The stuff that she's done, I mean, I think many of the LGBTQ members don't even know. Because a lot of it, she'll just keep that, not because she wants to hide it or she's embarrassed, but it's just because that's who she is. She's that see that thou tell no man type person. You know what I mean? But can I share with you something?
Yes.
This is so crazy because when you asked me to do this, I get in the car and I've been looking for this piece of paper, okay? And this was the script.
And Alex is holding a piece of paper, looks a little crumpled up, like it's been hidden.
Up.
It's been hidden in his car or somewhere.
It's been in my car, and I want to share it with you. This is the monologue that I had written to start off the whole of the Love Loud, and I'm just going to read it to you. Let me see. Hopefully, it's not. Oh yeah, okay, it's not that long. It's just a page. So I want you to imagine this. So I'm in front of 20,000 people. Okay. So I said, when I got the call from Dan Reynolds to come MC this amazing festival, I couldn't wait to be a part of this historic evening to celebrate my lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender friends and their families alongside my Mormon tribe. I came to show love. I came to show my support. I came to play a small part in something bigger than us all. Do you remember the times when we would give ourselves labels and it used to be cool? We'd say things like, welcome, you're one of us now, or so glad that you're a part of our group, etc. Then along the way, something happened. We started changing up our dialogue. Instead of saying, you're one of us, we started saying, oh no, you're different. Sorry, you can't hang with us. Labels started to focus on separating instead of uniting. And labels stopped being cool and started being cruel. Well, I say it's time to get rid of all the freaking labels and get back to basics by coming back together and finding common ground once more. Labels are meant for clothes, not people. And the crowd just went nuts.
I love that line.
It was awesome. Hey, yeah, I'm going to make t-shirts there. And then it says, and if you want to have labels, then let's go back to the first label we were given from birth. How about human race? If you turn us all inside out, you'll find that no matter who we are, what sexual orientation, class, distinction, color, race, or religion, if you turn us inside out, you will discover that we all bleed the same color. By the way, just as a quick note, just like some little shameless promotion here, but there's a reason, but please go, if you get a chance, go on YouTube, type in Alex Boye, We All Bleed the Same. I'll leave it there. Go and watch that video.
We all bleed the same.
We all bleed the same.
Great.
So then I'll carry on. So it says, I'm kind of slow. I've learned something lately. I've learned that if you look at people's Instagram posts, Twitter feeds, and Facebook statuses, it all seems that we are all fundamentally searching for the same thing. You know what that is? In the words of Nat King Cole, to love and be loved in return. And that is our human nature, just like Michael Jackson said. And tonight, that's what tonight is all about. This concert is not about religion. This concert is not about politics. None of these artists asked to be paid. No, the purpose of this festival is to bring attention to a particular group of people, namely the LGBTQ+ community that need to know what it means to be loved unconditionally, no matter what. I want to give a shout out to all the families of the LGBT community and hope that this event might be a big encouragement for them on their ongoing journey also. We have an incredible show for you this evening. My question is, are you ready?
Are you ready?
So
I love that.
I'm so glad I found that.
I'm so glad you read that.
Of all the times, I've been looking for it for like over a year. And then when you called me, I had written on the back of it. And then I turned it around and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just written on the flipping script. So the reason for everything.
What a great way to start. I've heard so many positive. That was a great night.
Oh, it was amazing. It was amazing.
Thank you for stepping in that space as an active LDS. And
well, I've been asked to do more. I think
tell our listeners more. Anything you want to talk about, Alex?
Yeah, well, because I think that there's about 20 more. Dan Reynolds' clan and his group and his foundation reached out to me, said, "Would you be interested to do it?" I was supposed to do the last year's one, but I was out of the country. I was in Japan, and I was doing some concerts out there. But I was just so sad that I missed it, and they made me put a video. I put a video, and I think they showed it. But what was so cool was that they asked me to come back, and would I be able to host not just one, but like a whole series of ones all throughout America. And I'm like, heck to the yeah, frickin' sign me up. Where do I sign up? So I'm excited. It's going to be great. What
would you say to LGBTQ people that are listening? I actually think what you just read is perfect, but would you add anything to that, Alex?
Yes, I would. I would act that, coming from a culture, black culture, that's for so many years and even still today has been shunned,
Right.
has been held down, has been even though we're not in chains anymore, mentally, we still feel the weight of those chains. And many times we still feel like second-class citizens.
That's really honest.
Doesn't matter what country,
Mentally,
America, any country, Japan, England, France, Spain, you name it, we feel that way.
Mentally, we still feel those chains.
Mentally,
That's
we still feel the
really
chains.
powerful visual.
You know, because what people don't realize is that it's passed down. Like, you know, when you say it's passed down in your genes, there are certain mentalities that slaves have had, okay, that just because they die, you know, it goes into their children and they don't know why. And there are triggers that set things off, and then you still think you're second-class racism. You cannot explain that to anyone. And so that's why I come and I'm looking at the LGBTQ, you know, community, and I'm like, you guys go through struggles, and I cannot, I will never understand it. But one thing that I do want to do is be a part of helping to bring some kind of awareness and to basically shorten the gap between them and those and these and those people. You know what I mean? To shorten that gap, that we bring that one label back, you know? And all I got to say is that especially, this is for the LGBT community, but especially for those with LDS ties, is I have no idea what you could be going through, like every single day. I have no idea. But one thing I do know is that there's someone out there that wants to reach out to you and hug you. Find yourself in holy places to be able to feel the presence of the Spirit as often as you can. And those hugs that keep building will build you into a powerhouse. You are here for a reason. And you think the way that you think for a reason. The way you think is not an accident. And just like it took so many years for blacks to figure out their place in the church, and the blessing it is of suffering and struggle. Just remember, Jesus didn't have an easy time. He suffered, he struggled in ways that we can never imagine. But Heavenly Father told him that those who go through those struggles are the ones who have the highest, are you listening? The highest part of the celestial kingdom reserved for them, not the lowest. And I don't know how that happens. I'll let the Lord deal with that. That's not my job. And I'm so glad it isn't, because I'd freaking mess it up. But I just want to tell you, the community, please hold on. Please stay. Because we need you to teach us. And if you all disappear, how are we going to learn? If you all leave this place, leave this earth prematurely, how are we going to learn? Because let me tell you something. You might not realize this, but every single day that you're alive, you are teaching somebody something. You are changing somebody's perception, like you changed mine. And you are changing people's perceptions in places where it matters. And you might not think that is true. It's just like a mosquito. If you think that you're not making a difference and that you're not making an influence, try sleeping in the same bed as a mosquito. Right? The smallest things can make the biggest difference. That's pretty much it. And when you see me on the street, come say hi.
You know, Alex closed his eyes during most of that, and I just felt he was receiving the words that from God that he was supposed to speak right now for you that are LGBTQ and are struggling. And Alex can speak with authentic voice because of the road that he's been on. And I love the parallels you've drawn between your own road and the road of LGBTQ people. And you give hope, Alex, and you give vision. I love the last verse of Bridge Over Troubled Water, where it's sort of like, your time has come to shine. Yeah. Sail on by. I'll be right behind you, but this is your day to shine.
Love that.
Any other thoughts you'd like to share on any other subject, Alex? This has been a wonderful podcast. It's lifted me in so many.
Oh, man, I appreciate. But it's just an honor. I just want to just shine this thing back to Papa Osler and, what he's doing. And I told him, I was like, he's like a teenager in an old body. An older body.
That, and that's one of the greatest compliments you could give me, Alex.
But I mean that, he gets the culture, and I think that's so important, because many of the stuff that has been told and said by many of the LGBTQ people about, about how to live, is outdated, and it causes more harm than good. And it's just like someone could have two kids, right? And they're both different. Like, I remember one person said to me, how can you reconcile having this support to the LGBTQ and then being Mormon?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, you trying to say I can't love both? How many times you go to a restaurant and you're so hungry, so you get both, you get both orders? You know what I mean? It's like, look at your kids, right? Two of your kids, name two of them who are the most different and the most opposite. You'll name them. Which one do you love more? Exactly. You can't let go of either of them. And that's just what I feel like. I can't let go of one just so that I can be, it just doesn't work for me that way. Because the gospel of Jesus Christ says, all are alike unto God. It didn't say all but the LGBTQ community are alike unto God. It freaking says all. And I have to start honoring and believing that. Because a lot of times, see, we believe in Jesus Christ, but we don't believe him. I feel that, like, we believe in him. We know he lived. We know he died, and all that type of stuff. We know the stories. We know how he was crucified. But when we look at his words and it tells us the things that we need to do and how we need to treat our neighbors, clearly we're not believing it, because if we're not doing it, and that's kind of what hit me. I was like, Alex, you gotta start believing in him and believing him. And that's where I find my greatest joy. That's where I get stronger hugs. Stronger hugs from upstairs. And the stronger those hugs, the more things become more real, a reality. I see things as they really are. And that's really powerful. My goal is to try and get myself, even through my imperfect nature, is to try and put myself in places where I can listen to the word of the Lord. And that doesn't have to be at church. It doesn't have to be at the temple. It can simply be in the confounds of your own home. My patriarchal blessing says that I should make my home a temple. So that means to me that I can sit on my raggedy old beat up chair and contemplate the words of deity and let that wash right through my soul. I would say one thing that really, really helps me is that in your struggles is to try and change and I know this is easy said and done, change your mind. And what I mean by that is, there's a scripture that says, as a man thinketh, so is he. And so what happens is, as a black man, sometimes I used to always walk around thinking, oh, there you go, look, that person's racist. Oh, there you go, that person's going to say something to me. Oh, that, and then they just do. Because I put that on myself, and I opened that, as a man thinketh. So I started thinking that way. As a man thinketh, so is he or she. So I'm like, how can I put this control back to me? So I'm saying, I refuse to think that way. I refuse to believe that. And what starts to happen is that I get more of a peace of mind, because it's really about you. It's not about them. You try your hardest in any way that you can to find your own peace of mind. And all the crap out there will start to fall by the wayside, and it won't matter anymore. It won't be a bigger thing. It won't be a stuff that, there's like when Jesus came, he was silent. All the offense that he was given, he was silent. And there's one thing to be silent and still angry and just still fighting it. But there's one thing that there is a power that comes where you can be silent and you can be at peace, knowing that Jesus is your judge, is your savior, and you know how he judges. He loves you. I'm so glad that Jesus is my judge and not the person down the street that has their own twisted thinking of what it means to be unified. I'm so glad that Jesus is the judge, because once you know that, then you know that you are going to be absolutely fine and you have nothing to worry about. Because somehow, I don't know how it's done, but he fixes what is broken. And that's the way it's always going to be. And we're all broken.
We are broken.
Every single one of us are all broken, and he fixes that.
Yeah, and we don't need to be perfect. We can bend.
Yes.
Alex, I feel like you've just been teaching us the gospel of Jesus Christ with your life experiences, with your music, with the Bend Don't Break video, with the honest and vulnerable and helpful thoughts. I love because I think a lot of active LDS want to be in this space where I love LGBTQ people and I love my church, and I think you're doing a great example. And to me, you're not making up doctrine to do that. You're just being a disciple of Christ and using the example of Christ. So it's authentic and it's real, it's consistent.
Thank you, brother.
So any concluding thoughts? I'm going to give you another chance just because I just love what you said, but if there's any other thoughts you'd like to share with our listeners, this has been so helpful, Alex.
Oh, well, I really believe on the power of positivity and that we can be positive people in a negative world. I really believe that. And, there's just some things that I say to myself that's really, really helped me. And I read in a book, and it was just these 3 things, and it's just changed my life. So if any of you guys have a pen or anything, just write it down. I'm going to say it slowly, and it's really, really simple. You can think, oh, this is really dumb. But it's really simple. You wake up first thing in the morning, that's what I do. And then I basically say, whether I look in the mirror or I write down on a piece of paper, in my wallet, I say, I am always divinely guided. And then the second one is, I will always make the right turning on the road. And the third one, and this is powerful, I will always make a way. No, God will always make a way where there is no way. Isn't that powerful for the LGBT community? Think about that.
That is powerful.
This is, for anyone and everyone, but just the LGBT community. When you believe that, God will always make a way where there is no way. So I'm going to say it one more time. Write down 3 points. I am always divinely guided. 2, I will always make the right turning on the road. 3, God will always make a way where there is no way. Now let me ask you something. They say it takes 3 weeks to make or break a habit. Imagine if you had this rolling around in your subconscious. I promise you, the way that you will look at life will be totally different. And that you won't be so hurt by the things that's going on. In fact, you might find that you'll end up being the king and the queen that you was born to be. And you will walk with your head high and you will say, I know in whom I love and who loves me. So I say that every single morning, in the afternoon, and last thing at night. It's a way to bring positivity into your heart, and keep doing that. Do it for a month. I promise you, you'll see some stuff happen. And I hope that you can, after a month, send a message to Papa Osler or me, Alex Boye, number 4 on Instagram, or Alex Boye Real on Twitter. And just tell me your thoughts. See how you work. See if there anything happened for you. I guarantee you it will.
Thank you, Alex, and all of our listeners for joining us on another episode of Listen, Learn, and Love.